anything. So I'm sorry for not slipping in, but don't worry, we'll find our way in. We'll find our way in. So I'm sorry for not slipping in, not slipping in, not slipping in. Oh, Father help me, I just can't decide. So I'm sorry for not slipping in, not slipping in, not slipping in. Oh, Father help me, I just can't decide. I just can't decide. I just can't decide. I just can't decide.
Welcome to that 991 GT3 Mark II. This is one of the first cars delivered in the UK, and we're lucky enough to take it out for a drive today. This car comes with a few nice options. It's got the Club Sport package, so it has the roll cage in the back, it has full carbon interior, and it has the lovely bucket seats that you would have seen in the 991 GT3 RS, Mr. TGEs. So, and also in my GT4, the same seats. Now, these seats are really comfortable for short journeys. I don't think they're comfortable for long journeys because you sit quite upright in them and they don't really have any tilt function. So if you're using the car every day, you may want to look at normal bucket seats or the Sport adaptive seats, which are, I think, more comfortable. Otherwise, it's pretty standard GT3 inside. You get the Alcantara steering wheel. This one has the option with the yellow seat belts, which I think add a nice little bit of colour to the car, because obviously there's no colour inside the car. It's all pretty grey with lots of carbon. But obviously the exterior is pretty bright. So why don't we go out for a drive and see how it compares to older generation 911s. So we're in the GT3 and we're driving. It's my first time in this car. So these seats are really uncomfortable for me. They are upright, so you can't sit back into them, which I really don't like. Maybe that's just me, but I don't like sitting upright. You're almost sitting upright in the car, which I don't like. So, how does it feel? It sounds good. It's very smooth. PDK is really nice. Not to have to worry about a manual gearbox. I know people love manual gearboxes, and I love them too, but only for very short journeys, and not for driving anything that's over like an hour, anything long distance. So the car is fairly new. It's only done 207 miles. So I'm going to take it really easy because the car isn't run in yet. Even new cars still need to be run in probably for about 1,000 miles, I guess. The colour looks amazing sitting in the car. You know, you can see the Miami blue on the wing mirrors and the rear spoiler. It's beautiful colour. Beautiful colour choice. Oh, TG just passed us in his 720. That looks spectacular. So, how does it feel? Feels very torquey, very smooth, fast. It's really nice. It's completely different to the 997 generation GT3 RS that I've got. That car is much shorter wheelbase. It feels a lot more agricultural. The engine feels much more agricultural, and overall it just feels like a completely different car. This is much more refined. The drive is more refined. The suspension is better. It's smoother. You don't feel the bumps as much. It's actually a completely different car. I know they're both 911s, but they're very, very different cars. So Porsche have managed to, I think, keep the same weight on this as the old generation, but the power's up now to 493 brake horsepower, which is the same as the 4.0 997 that I've got. So a huge amount of power. The first thing that really strikes you about this car is just really easy to drive. And I think that Porsche were criticized for putting a PDK gearbox into the GT3. But you know, it really makes this car accessible to anyone that wants to use it as a daily, or just more often. You know, if you're thinking about taking the car down to the Nürburgring, which from London is probably around about a 6 or 7 hour journey, you don't want to be in a manual gearbox driving all that way. It just takes the enjoyment out of really the whole experience. And being in a PDK gearbox means that you can just get into traffic jams and not have to worry or, you know, exercise your left foot, which is what you have to do in most old generation sports cars. This car, you can just sit back and relax. You hit traffic, you've got air conditioning that works, you've got lovely suspension, you've got a lovely sound system, and it's just a lovely place to be.
Not slipping in, oh, the Father help me. I just can't decide, so I'm sorry for not slipping in, not slipping in, not slipping in. Oh, the Father help me. I just can't decide.
The McLaren 650S, I think, is a great car to compare to the brand new 911 GT3. Why? Because the power is now closer. The McLaren has 641 brake horsepower. This has a dual clutch gearbox, so quite good to compare dual clutch compared to the PDK system of the Porsche. And I was actually thinking about buying a GT3 before I bought the McLaren, and it was very close because the GT3 at the time was around 130, 140, and the McLaren was around 160. It wasn't too much of a difference, and it was the only car that I thought was comparable. So the lovely owner of this car is following in my McLaren, and he's never driven a McLaren, so it's going to be interesting to see what he thinks about the McLaren compared to this. It's funny because the McLaren has very similar traits to this car, although they're very, very different cars. The McLaren has the dual clutch gearbox and is also very easy to drive in traffic and has a lot more horsepower, 641 in the McLaren. But you know, being in this car, even though it's got 500 brake horsepower, which is a lot less than the McLaren, you never really feel that lack of power. The one thing you always feel in a Porsche is that it's well built and it's well put together. It feels very solid on the road. The downshift is absolutely fantastic. The noise that you hear from the engine when you're downshifting in this is fantastic. Better than the McLaren. The McLaren's obviously turbocharged, so you don't get the same noise from that naturally aspirated engine. That's one advantage that you've got over the McLaren. And you just end up wanting to downshift just to hear the noise of that engine. Wow, what a lovely car. What a lovely car. You know, the owner of this car, Marley, had a GT4 before, and we were discussing how direct the steering was on the GT4. And I think this car has lost a little bit of that, to be honest. It doesn't feel as direct as the GT4. Maybe that's because it's not as light as the GT4. Obviously the GT4 is mid-engine, this is rear engine. I shouldn't make too much difference to the steering, but it doesn't feel as direct as a GT4. So if you saw the video that I did of TGE's collection from McLaren Ascot, I thought that the ending was quite interesting with Archie signing out. So today I've got 2 other people to sign out. So let's have a look. I've got 2 other people. I've got one in the boot. Who do you have in the boot?
I'm tired, leave me alone.
And then I think I'll let someone else sign out of the video.
Oh, just quite enjoying myself in there. Hello. And on that note, I've been 888MF. Thank you very much for watching. Subscribe, blah, 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 and I'll see you again soon. Bye.